snow fell in muted silence over the battered outpost of Fort Schuyler. Nestled between two jagged cliffs deep in the Rocky Mountains, the base had once been a weather station. Now, it was the last known resistance stronghold in what used to be the United States. Commander Alara Dane stood watch on the rooftop, binoculars pressed to her face, eyes scanning the treeline. Her breath plumed in the freezing air, mixing with the soft hum of the wind turbines still miraculously turning after all these years. She lowered the binoculars and turned to Milo Beckett, the young engineer standing behind her, wires hanging from his backpack like metal vines. "You heard it too?" she asked. Milo nodded. It was faint, buried under static. "But yeah, someone's broadcasting. East, maybe northeast." Alara's lips pressed into a line. "A survivor? Could be. Or a trap." Everything these days was a trap. The undead had been bad enough, but rogue bands of humans, starving and violent, were often worse. Inside the war room, a map sprawled across a cracked table. Pins marked former safe zones, crossed out one by one. Only Schuyler remained untouched. For now. Rika, the team's scout, silent as snowfall, laid down fresh intel, tracks leading toward the western slope, too orderly for random scavengers. She didn't speak, but her narrowed eyes told the story. Someone was watching them. Alara gathered the team by firelight. "There's a signal. Might be a survivor group. Might be bait. I need volunteers." Jonah, the medic, raised his hand without hesitation. His pale face was marked by wear, but his eyes held steady. "I'm in," said Ward, arms crossed. A former prisoner turned fighter, Ward's loyalty was shaky, but when violence was needed, none were better. Milo looked uncertain, but nodded. "If it's a comm relay, I can trace the source. Maybe even jam whatever's been messing with our sensors." Rika didn't speak. She simply checked her rifle and shouldered her pack. 4 of them. That was all Alara could spare. She pulled a small device from her coat pocket, a scrambler. It distorted their movement signature from satellite or drone scans. Rare tech, and their last working one. "Move at dawn. Quiet, fast, no heroics. We need answers." That night, Alara stood alone in the command room. She stared at a photograph taped to the monitor, her brother, missing since the fall of Denver. The last time she'd heard his voice was over a crackling radio, saying one word, hope. She powered up the signal recording Milo had isolated. "Repeat, survivors. Meridian, northeast sector, need assistance, please." Then static. In her gut, Alara felt it. This was more than a signal. It was a pull, a spark in the dark. And if there was even the smallest chance that hope still existed, she had to reach for it. Before the undead did. Just before lights out, a siren wailed once, a long, keening warning. Movement on the perimeter. Zombies. But not the usual scattered wanderers. No, this time they came in ranks. Organized. Alara rushed to the wall tower and grabbed the long-range scope. Shadows moved in eerie unison across the tree line. Not charging. Not moaning. Just watching. Waiting. Her radio crackled. "Commander, you seeing this?" "I see it." "What does it mean?" Alara gritted her teeth. "It means we don't have much time. Let me know when you're ready for part 2, and I'll continue with another 795 words of suspense and action." The sun hadn't risen yet when the steel gate creaked open and the 4 volunteers slipped into the snow-veiled wilderness beyond Fort Schuyler. Their breath hung in the cold air, visible ghosts of the living in a world mostly dead. Alara watched from the tower as the team vanished into the gray dawn. She hated sending them, but if the signal was real, if Meridian still held life, then the journey was worth every risk. Still, the way the zombies had behaved the night before unsettled her. Something was changing. Milo adjusted the strap on his backpack, careful not to disturb the sensitive electronics packed inside. "This way," he whispered, pointing northeast toward the broken ridge that once bordered Interstate 70. Signals coming from just past there. Ward muttered, "Let's hope it's not another graveyard." They moved in silence through the snow-draped trees. Rika scouted ahead like a shadow, so silent that even the snow seemed not to crunch under her boots. She signaled back with 2 quick taps on a fallen log, clear for now. They reached a collapsed bridge where the old highway had buckled into the ravine below. The team descended carefully. Jonah paused to rest at the bottom, clutching the strap of his med bag. "You all right?" Milo asked. "Yeah," Jonah said, but his face was pale. "Didn't sleep. Nightmares again." Ward chuckled bitterly. "Welcome to the club." By midday, they reached the remnants of an old truck stop. Milo pulled out a makeshift dish receiver and aimed it toward the northeast. Static buzzed through the small radio unit. "Hold on," he twisted a knob. A voice crackled through, fragmented, but unmistakably human. "Please. Meridian, survivors, signal jamming, coordinates." Then it vanished. Ward scanned the treeline, unease settling over him like a second skin. "We're not alone." Rika appeared from the side, motioning for them to take cover. Just beyond the truck stop, figures moved, humanoid, slow, but not shambling like mindless undead. "No. These moved with direction." Milo whispered, "They're communicating. See that?" 2 of the figures waved arms. One turned and pointed. "Zombies don't point," Jonah said. "Those aren't walkers." Then he looked closer. They were zombies, gray-skinned, hunched, eyes cloudy, but they moved in patterns, grouped in 2s and 3s, like a patrol. And at the rear of the group was something even stranger, a humanoid figure with a face mask and a long coat, carrying what looked like a control panel strapped to its back. Milo's heart dropped. "Someone's directing them." "Like a shepherd," Ward muttered. Rika aimed her rifle at the figure, but Alara's voice echoed in her earpiece. "Do not engage. Get clear. Find higher ground and regroup." They retreated into the trees. Milo kept glancing back. "How is that even possible?" he asked no one in particular. "We've never seen coordination like this. The virus doesn't support neural complexity like that." Jonah looked grim. "Unless it's not just the virus anymore." By dusk, they'd found an old ranger tower perched on a snow-covered slope. It creaked when Ward pushed the door open, but inside, it was dry. Rika set up silent perimeter alarms using tripwires and scavenged cans. Milo connected his signal gear again and filtered through frequencies. After a few false starts, he picked up a new one, encrypted, faint, but there. He decrypted a few fragments. "Dr. Voss, progress, new batch, loyalty achieved. Meridian under control." He froze. "Voss? As in Dr. Adrian Voss?" He was with the Resistance. He worked on the early-stage virus models. Jonah nodded slowly. "He disappeared 2 years ago. Everyone assumed he died when the Denver lab fell." Milo's hands trembled. "What if he didn't?" Ward paced. "You're telling me some science freak is out here commanding zombies like soldiers?" "I think he's experimenting with control," Milo said. "Like, he's found a way to use tech or biolinking to direct the infected." Rika tapped twice on the window, movement below. Figures. Coming up the hill. The same group from the truck stop. They'd followed them. "Time to move," Ward said, already slinging his rifle. They descended the tower silently, then began trekking toward the east ravine, steep, treacherous, but it would lose their pursuers. As they ran, Milo looked back once. The masked figure stood at the tree line. Watching. Not moving. Just staring. As if it knew them. As if it was waiting. They didn't stop running until the trees swallowed everything. "Let me know when you're ready for part 3. Dawn painted the sky in bruised shades of gray and rose as the team emerged from the forest into the dead city of Meridian. Once a thriving Midwestern hub, it now stood like a fossil, silent, motionless, with buildings half-eaten by time and nature. Ivy curled over cracked windows. Vehicles lay like bones in the streets, rusted, doorless, long stripped of value. "This place is wrong," Jonah whispered, scanning the rooftops. Rika moved silently ahead, her gaze cutting left and right. Even she looked unnerved. No birds. No wind. Just an eerie stillness that pressed on the skin like a second atmosphere. They stepped cautiously into the city's center, following the narrow alleyways toward the signal's coordinates. Milo pulled out his handheld receiver, watching the bars pulse and tremble. "It's close. Less than half a mile," he murmured. Ward chuckled darkly. "That's comforting. Too bad it smells like bait." Indeed, something stank beneath the quiet. Meridian hadn't just been abandoned, it had been cleared. Neatly. Every car had been moved to block side streets. Trash was piled into designated bins. Fires were built, burned, and buried. Not the chaos of panic, but the residue of structure. Purpose. They passed a wall covered in painted symbols. Red, black, white. Circles, slashes, what looked like infected skulls with wires protruding from their jaws. Milo froze in front of one symbol, an open eye with jagged edges. "That's from the chain," he said grimly. "The what?" Ward asked. "A rogue militia. Formed after the fall of Phoenix. Obsessed with domination, survival of the strongest. Voss worked with them before he vanished. They believe controlling the infected is the next evolution of warfare." Jonah spat into the snow. "That's not war. That's evil." As they pushed deeper into Meridian, Rika signaled halt. She crouched by a doorway, fingers brushing the ground. Tracks, booted, recent. Not zombie. Human. "We're not alone," Milo said, checking his battery reserves. "We should find shelter, regroup." Too late. A sudden clattering above. A smoke canister dropped from a second-story window, rolling to a stop in front of them. It hissed, releasing a thick, dark fog. "Scatter!" Ward yelled. The team dove in different directions. Shapes moved in the fog, fast, armored. Stun batons crackled with blue light. Rika tackled one, slicing its thigh before vanishing again. Milo scrambled behind a crushed sedan. He could hear the shouting now, real voices. "Don't damage them. Voss wants them alive." He barely had time to react before two figures grabbed him from behind and slammed him to the ground. His vision spun. Then darkness. Milo woke groggily to the hiss of electric doors. He was inside what looked like a converted metro tunnel, lights flickering overhead, concrete walls bearing the same painted eye symbol. He was chained to a chair, wrists bound to the metal arms. Jonah was beside him, bleeding from the lip but alive. Ward sat across from them, arms straining against his cuffs. Rika was missing. Before Milo could speak, footsteps echoed. Dr. Adrian Voss stepped into view. He wore a black coat, pristine. His face was pale and sharp, his eyes cold and clear. The years hadn't aged him so much as refined him, into something harder. "Hello," he said, with the calm of a surgeon before an incision. "You've traveled far." Milo glared. "You hijacked the signal. You used Kaya's voice." "Why?" Voss tilted his head. "Hope is a powerful motivator. People will go to impossible lengths when they think there's still something left to save." "You're controlling the dead," Jonah spat. "Why? What is this place?" Voss smiled slightly, as if amused by the question. "I'm not controlling them. I'm guiding them. Shaping them. The virus isn't a curse, it's potential. The mind deteriorates, but the body remains responsive. My research has advanced the neural bonding threshold. With the right tech," he tapped the control node at his belt, "the right command structure, they obey." Ward sneered. "You're insane." "No. I'm visionary." He paced slowly between them. "You see death. I see a new army. No hunger. No fear. Just purpose. Milo's eyes darted to the door. Where's Rika? Being tested, Voss replied. The air in the room grew colder. You'll join her soon enough. But first, tell me how Fort Schuyler is managing its power grid. I'm particularly interested in your scrambler tech. It interferes with the signal range. That's inconvenient. Jonah growled. You'll get nothing. Voss's smile widened. Oh, I think I will. He turned and left the room, the door hissing shut behind him. Jonah slumped in his chair. He's going to dissect us. Milo stared down at his wrist. The metal of his binding had a tiny seam. He still had a chip solder tucked beneath his sleeve. He worked it loose, eyes narrowing. Not if I can help it. Let me know when you're ready for part 4. Milo's fingers worked fast, his breath slow and silent. The microchip solder hidden beneath his sleeve was meant for emergencies, a bypass tool with enough power to short out small electronics. The cuffs holding him were magnetic. With luck, the chip would generate a feedback loop strong enough to disrupt them. Jonah leaned closer. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Outside the chamber, the steady hum of machinery droned on. Footsteps echoed occasionally, guards, scientists, or worse. Ward kept his head low, speaking only when he saw Milo's fingers twitching beneath the chair. You really think that's gonna work? I don't have time to think, Milo muttered. He inserted the chip into the seam of his left cuff, counted 3 seconds, and twisted. A sharp snap of electric discharge lit the air with a flash. The magnetic lock released with a hiss, and Milo tore his wrist free, ignoring the searing heat on his palm. He quickly reached over and disabled Jonah's restraints, then Ward's. You beautiful genius, Ward whispered, rubbing his wrists. They had no weapons, only their wits, and the advantage of surprise. Milo crept to the door and examined the panel beside it. Standard swipe lock. No override. But the panel's cover was loose. He yanked it off and crossed 2 wires. Sparks flared, and the door slid open with a reluctant hiss. The corridor outside was empty. Pale fluorescent lights flickered above stained concrete floors. Signs labeled the tunnel system, Sector 3A, Experimental Holding. Where the hell is Rika? Jonah whispered, eyes scanning ahead. We find her first, Milo said. Then we burn this place down. They moved swiftly, ducking around corners and sticking to the shadows. Alarms hadn't sounded yet, but they knew it was only a matter of time. Down a side hall, they passed reinforced doors, each window revealing horrors. Half-living corpses restrained with cables. Eyes dull, mouths gagged. Tubes fed into their skulls. Jonah turned away. Voss is sick. Ward glanced in. He's not just experimenting on the dead. Some of these. They were alive once, Milo finished grimly. They found the surveillance hub 3 doors down. No one inside. Milo hacked into the terminal while Jonah watched the hallway. Rika's in the lower cell block. Lab sublevel, Milo said, scrolling through feeds. Sector 5C. Of course it's the deepest part of this hellhole, Ward muttered. Just then, a voice blared over the speakers. Com, clinical. Containment breach in progress. Sector 3A. Lockdown initiated. Units, converge. Milo's stomach dropped. They know. Ward grabbed a pipe from a supply cart. Jonah took a fire axe from a glass case. Improvised, but better than nothing. They sprinted through the narrowing corridors as red lights flared and steel doors slammed shut behind them. Milo led the way, following the terminal's layout in his head. The descent into Sector 5C was tight, an old elevator shaft with rusted rungs. One by one, they climbed down, their movements urgent but careful. As they neared the bottom, they heard voices. Not guards. Not infected. Rika. She was shouting. Fighting. They dropped into the corridor below just in time to see her slam an attacker into a steel wall. She was bloodied but unbroken, her captors sprawled unconscious around her. One of them, a handler in a lab coat, had his nose broken, twitching in pain. "About time," Rika grunted, wiping her mouth. "Was starting to think you forgot me." Ward tossed her the fire axe. "Never doubted you'd still be kicking." She caught it, checked the weight, and grinned. "Let's blow this place." They turned back toward the stairwell when the facility shook. A rumble. Then screams. Milo checked the nearest screen on the wall. Containment had failed. Something had been let loose. And it wasn't just walkers. On the surveillance feed, one of the advanced specimens tore through a squad of guards like paper. Its limbs twitched unnaturally, head jerking in every direction like a puppet on frayed strings. But what caught Milo's attention was the glint in its skull, metal wires, gleaming nodes. "Voss let them out," Milo said. "Or someone else did." Jonah stepped closer. "We're not escaping. We're walking into a war zone." "That's the plan," Rika said, gripping her axe tighter. They raced back to the surface level, fighting through crumbling halls as the infected began flooding the facility. Gunfire echoed from deeper sections. Someone screamed a name, then fell silent. Reaching the exit bay, they spotted their gear in a pile near a wall locker. Rika retrieved her sniper rifle, Ward reclaimed his blade, and Milo stuffed the signal gear into his bag. But as they reached the final doors, they came face to face with Voss. He stood calm in the entry chamber, flanked by two infected brutes. His control node pulsed with green light. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "You could have been part of something permanent." Milo didn't hesitate. He hurled an EMP charge at the control belt. A pulse shattered the silence. Boom, the infected dropped, spasming violently. Rika fired once. The shot slammed into Voss's shoulder. He staggered back, howling. "Now!" Milo shouted. They burst through the doors into the open air, snow and smoke mixing as chaos erupted behind them. The resistance had just begun. The sky above Meridian was choked with smoke. Fires burned in the distance, orange tongues licking the horizon. The wind carried the low moan of the infected, but now it was laced with something more chilling: radio chatter, automated drone whirs, and the grind of tracked vehicles. The city was waking up, just not for the living. Milo, Rika, Jonah, and Ward ducked behind a burned-out fuel truck, catching their breath. The cold bit at their skin, but adrenaline dulled the pain. Rika reloaded her rifle, eyes scanning the rooftops. "That shot won't keep Voss down," she muttered. "I hit his shoulder, not his brain." Milo winced as he patched a gash on his arm. "Doesn't matter." The EMP fried his control node. "We bought time." Jonah looked toward the old radio tower in the city's center. "That's where the signal originated. If we can hijack it, we can broadcast a real message. Let survivors know what Voss is doing." "Assuming the place isn't crawling with his twisted toys," Ward added. "Then we make noise," Rika said, rising. "We start a fire big enough to draw every infected, every chain soldier, everything they've got, away from the tower." They moved quickly through Meridian's skeletal streets. Signs of Voss's reach were everywhere: caged walkers with neural ports in their skulls, collapsed buildings surrounded by fencing and generators, drone sentries floating silently overhead. But as they rounded a corner near the courthouse, they saw something that stopped them cold. People. Real, breathing humans, dozens of them, confined in a makeshift pen made of sheet metal and electrified wire. Most were too weak to move. Some sat blank-eyed. Others huddled with children, whispering stories of better times. A single chain soldier patrolled the perimeter with a cattle prod. Ward gritted his teeth. "We can't leave them." "We don't have time," Jonah argued. "This isn't the mission." "They are the mission," Rika snapped. "If we don't fight for them, what the hell are we even doing?" Milo stared at the fence, mind racing. "Okay. Here's how we do it." Minutes later, the chain guard paced his usual route, one eye on the prisoners, the other scanning the surrounding ruins. Bored. Complacent. He never saw the silent shadow drop from the rooftop. Rika landed behind him and plunged her blade into his side. He fell without a sound. She dragged the body behind the pen. Milo rushed forward, disabling the generator powering the electrified fence. The hum died. Jonah and Ward opened the gate. "We're here to help," Jonah said quietly. "Stay low. Move when I say." One man, older, gaunt, looked up. "They took some of us." "Experiments." "South Tunnel." Milo nodded grimly. "We know. Voss is still down there." They helped the captives flee to an abandoned fire station down the block. There, Rika gave the strongest among them blunt weapons, tools, anything that could help defend themselves if necessary. Then came the noise. A low-pitched siren from the west. Rika grabbed her binoculars, climbing the station's roof. She swore. A chain tank rolled through Meridian's western gate, flanked by 2 control carts pushing dozens of infected on motorized leashes. Voss wasn't giving up the city. He was turning it into a forward command post. Milo joined her. "They're heading to the tower. We need to beat them there," she said. "If they activate the relay, they'll blanket the whole state with their recruitment signal. Survivors won't come to help, they'll walk right into a trap." Jonah's voice crackled on their short-range radio. "I found a way through the old metro line. It runs under the tower. Risky, but faster." Milo looked at Rika. She nodded. They gathered supplies, said quick goodbyes to the civilians, and vanished into the metro's gaping mouth. The tunnel stank of mildew and death. Rats scurried ahead. Old warning signs, half scraped away, marked the walls: "Contaminated, biohazard, keep out." Jonah led the way, flashlight flickering. "What's that humming?" Ward asked. They rounded a corner, and froze. A massive chamber opened before them. At its center stood a grotesque monument, a writhing fusion of infected bodies, all wired into a central processor. Metal plates had been bolted to their skulls. Tubes fed chemicals into their veins. They twitched, moaned, begged in distorted, robotic whispers. "The signal core," Milo breathed. "He built it right under the city." Suddenly, sirens screamed again. Floodlights burst to life. Chain troops poured in from side tunnels, weapons raised. "Too late," Rika said. "Then we go out loud," Ward growled. They opened fire. The gunfight was chaos. Metal rang, bullets cracked. Rika picked soldiers off from the dark, while Jonah flanked right, slicing through a controller's leads and releasing half a dozen infected, who turned on their handlers. Milo rushed toward the signal monument, planting EMP nodes. "Cover me." Ward tackled 2 guards as Milo activated the sequence. The floor rumbled. Sparks flew. The monstrous signal tower surged, and collapsed. Control nodes on the infected's heads blinked out. The creatures shrieked, confused, then charged indiscriminately. A final burst of light ripped through the chamber. Then silence. The team limped back to the fire station just before sunrise. Milo broadcast a signal from a recovered chain console. "To all survivors, Meridian is compromised, but not fallen. Voss's tower is down. Resistance lives. Come armed. Come ready. Dead America is not done fighting." Outside, the air smelled of burning steel and scorched hope. But they had survived. And hope, however scarred, had a voice again. Dawn broke like a wound across the horizon, blood-red and slow. The skyline of Meridian stood jagged and still, but beneath the surface, war was brewing. Survivors answered Milo's signal. Smoke trails marked caravan routes. Old radios sputtered to life with cautious replies. "This is Sierra Post, 3 able bodies, heading east. Detroit group moving. We heard your call. Keep the fire lit. Resistance lives. Coming in from the south." But for every hopeful voice, a darker one lingered. Voss had vanished. And the chain was not dead. Milo stood on the rooftop of the fire station, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Reinforced trucks rolled toward the outer barricades. The resistance had managed to form a crude wall with buses, cars, and scrap, 3 blocks wide, codenamed Dawnbreak. 5 vehicles. Troop carriers, he muttered into his comms. Rika? She responded from the southern lookout. Got them. 3 brutes behind. Walkers in leash formation. They're planning a full breach. Ward's voice cut in next. Let 'em come. They'll find out real quick this city bites back. Milo turned to Jonah, who stood beside the roof's radio tower, working on the long-range beacon. How long until it's active? Jonah adjusted the antenna. 10 minutes. Maybe less. If we push it now, we can beam the relay wide, coast to coast if the satellites still function. And if not? Then we dial out enough for the world to hear. Below them, survivors scrambled into position. Makeshift gun nests. Molotov cocktails lined up like fire spirits. A few kids too young to fight helped carry ammo and wrap bandages. It wasn't an army. But it was enough. Rika arrived at the station with 2 newcomers, wiry, dirt-caked fighters from a nomad group. More allies from the west, she said. They fought off a chain camp 2 weeks back. Know how to handle themselves. The taller of the 2, a woman named Ellis, saluted Milo. We've seen what they're doing. It's not science. It's possession. And we won't let them win. Milo nodded. Welcome to Dawnbreak. The radio crackled. Enemy troops 500 meters in closing. They've got drones up. Take cover, Milo shouted. Everyone to positions. The resistance scrambled. Ward gripped his blade tighter, adrenaline surging. Then came the scream. A shrill mechanical howl that echoed over the buildings. Everyone froze. A new kind of infected emerged, a towering, twisted thing with armor bolted to its limbs and a muzzle over its face. Sparks danced across its spine. Wires pulsed where veins should have been. What is that? Jonah whispered. A prototype, Rika said grimly. He's testing weapons again. The brute charged first. The wall held, for 30 seconds. Then the creature smashed a bus aside like a toy, scattering debris and sending resistance fighters flying. Behind it, chain soldiers marched with rifles and control nodes glowing bright green. Milo activated the defense grid. EMP darts fired from rooftops, striking control belts. A few infected dropped dead, their neural override severed. Others went wild, attacking soldiers indiscriminately. Chaos erupted. Jonah and Ellis opened fire from the roof. Ward and Rika led a squad on the ground, fighting hand-to-hand. Every inch of street was a war zone, metal, bone, and flame. The prototype brute tore through a barricade and charged the fire station. Milo ran to the beacon panel. Jonah, cover me. The brute leapt. Ward met it midair, slamming into its side with a roar. The 2 tumbled across the street. Ward swung his blade, cleaving deep into the creature's chest, but it didn't slow down. Rika arrived a second later, unloading 2 shells into its knees. It staggered. Ellis tossed a Molotov that exploded on contact, flames licking its back. Milo entered the final relay code. Broadcast active. The long-range beacon hummed. Above the chaos, a single voice now cut through the static. Milo's. To any who still live. This is Meridian. The chain has breached our walls. But we are standing. We are fighting. We are free. You are not alone. Rise. The message echoed far and wide. Some would hear it in bunkers. Others on scavenged radios. A signal of defiance in a world grown silent. Below, the battle raged. The prototype brute lunged again, but this time, Ward was ready. He jammed his blade through the control node on its neck. Sparks erupted. The creature spasmed, then crumbled. Rika turned to Milo, panting. We're holding, barely. He looked out across the burning street, where makeshift barricades still stood. Fighters regrouped. Survivors dragged wounded to shelter. The chain was pulling back. For now, Milo said. They had survived the breach. But the war for Meridian, and dead America, was just beginning. The fires had died down, but the smell of burning flesh and melted circuits clung to Meridian like a curse. The resistance had survived the breach at dawnbreak, but barely. The wounded outnumbered the fit. Ammunition was running low. And worst of all, the message they'd broadcast, it had worked. Survivors were coming. Hundreds. Maybe more. But so was Voss. Milo stood over a map laid across the fire station's steel table. He circled a point south of the city with his finger. This is where the last beacon originated. Voss's personal signal. It's moving, slowly. Like he wants us to know. Jonah leaned in. He's drawing us out. He wants a confrontation, Rika said. Final blow. A message to the rest. Ellis, the nomad fighter, tapped the spot on the map. That's the old processing plant. Pre-outbreak, it was a biotech facility. We used to avoid it, it had patrols, turrets. He's been living in it like a king. Or a god, Jonah muttered. Ward slammed a magazine into his rifle. Then we dethrone him. But Milo wasn't so sure. Voss wasn't just any warlord. He was the mind behind the chain, an architect of horror who had turned science into slavery. His genius wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. He studied fear. He engineered surrender. I want him gone more than anyone, Milo said. But charging in blind gets us all killed. So we don't go blind, Rika said. We scout. Find his weaknesses. Make him bleed before he knows we're coming. Ellis smirked. I know a way into the plant. Underground. Sewer access. It'll smell like hell, but it gets you close. They made the plan quickly. Rika, Milo, Jonah, Ward, and Ellis would lead a stealth team into the facility through the sewers. The rest of the resistance would hold Meridian, fortifying and preparing for either victory, or a flood of retribution if they failed. Night fell fast, as if the earth itself wanted to hide what came next. The sewers beneath Meridian were a maze of dripping tunnels and rusted grates. Faint light bled through from storm drains above, casting ghostly reflections in the sludge. Jonah whispered, I think I preferred fighting a mutant brute to this. Quiet, Rika hissed. Hear that? A metallic whine echoed ahead. They crept forward and found the first sign of Voss's security, motion-sensing drones hovering silently in the dark, scanning for heat signatures. Ellis pulled a jamming device from her bag and activated it. The drone shuddered, then dropped into the muck with a splash. I love science when it helps us, not enslaves us, she said. Soon, they reached the base of a maintenance shaft that led directly beneath the facility. Milo opened the hatch slowly, and the stench hit them all at once. Not just sewage. Decay. Chemicals. Burned flesh. They climbed into the bowels of Voss's domain. The facility above had once been white and clean, now it was twisted metal, flesh, and wire. Hallways glowed with a sickly green hue. Screams echoed in the distance, human, maybe, maybe not. Rika raised her rifle. We split here. Ward and Jonah, find the server hub. Destroy his data. Make sure he can't restart this nightmare. Milo, Ellis, with me. We take the lab. We end him. Ward nodded. See you on the other side. They parted in silence. Milo, Ellis, and Rika crept through a corridor where half-dead creatures were suspended in tanks, some twitching, others eerily still. Each bore Voss's mark, metal embedded in their skulls, tubes connecting them to the wall like roots to a tree. Then, they found the lab. It was massive, part control center, part altar. And there, at the heart of it all, stood Voss. He looked older than Milo remembered, gaunt, pale, eyes sunken like pits, but his posture was straight, confident. Machines whirred around him. One hand was entirely mechanical, with blinking lights across the knuckles. "I wondered when you'd come," Voss said, voice calm, cultured. "You're not just survivors. You're stubborn." "Your reign ends here," Rika growled. "Reign?" He chuckled. "This isn't a kingdom. It's a prototype. A world perfected. Order without chaos. Fear without rebellion. You enslaved people," Ella spat. "I evolved them," Voss snapped. "I freed them from pain, from weakness. They serve a purpose now." Milo stepped forward. "No. You serve yourself. And now, it ends." He hurled an EMP grenade toward the server racks. Voss's eyes widened, but he was fast, inhumanly so. He dodged, throwing a switch. The lights surged. And from the walls, they came. Defenders, half machine, half human, Voss's final experiment. Not mindless infected. These thought. These hunted. Rika opened fire, dropping one with a shot to the control node in its chest. Ellis tackled another, stabbing its arm to disable its servo system. Voss retreated deeper into the lab, activating the facility's lockdown. "You can't kill what's already transcended," he shouted. Milo chased him into the core chamber. Screens flashed with images of cities, maps, neural activity, his plans for the next stage. He was going global. Not if Milo could stop him. He shot the power conduit. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. Rika burst in behind him. "He's getting away." But Voss had vanished through an emergency exit, locking it behind him. They planted explosives along the lab's power network. Jonah and Ward checked in through the comms. They'd done the same in the data vault. The team regrouped at the shaft. As they climbed back toward the surface, Milo looked down one last time. "You'll run, Voss," he whispered. "But we'll be right behind you." They hit the detonators. The night exploded. Above, Meridian's defenders watched the sky light up. A deep rumble shook the streets. Fire erupted in the distance, where the old facility once stood. Cheers erupted. But Milo, climbing over the last ridge, didn't smile. "It's not over," he said. "He survived. That was just the lab." Rika nodded grimly. "Then we hunt him." The smoke from the destroyed facility had barely faded when the first signs of retaliation came. It wasn't an army. It was a storm. Sky-darkening drones in formation. Pulse waves that silenced radios. Chained soldiers, the few that remained, marching under remote command. And leading them was Voss. He hadn't fled far. The explosion hadn't crippled him, it had transformed him. His left eye glowed now. His voice, when it returned over stolen broadcast waves, was cold steel and thunder. "You destroyed my lab. You crippled my systems. But you forgot one thing, I am the system." The survivors of Meridian had no time to rebuild. They only had time to decide, stand, or flee. Milo chose to stand. The Council of Leaders, what remained of it, gathered in the fire station, maps lit by flickering lanterns. Milo pointed to a zone near the city's central bridge. "This is where he'll push through. It's the only path wide enough for his drones, and the fastest route to population zones." Jonah frowned. "If we fail here, we lose everything. The coast, the inland, the radio beacons." "Then we don't fail," Ward said. He gripped the hilt of his sword. "We take the fight to him. No more hiding." Rika added, "We've spread the message. Other cells are mobilizing. If we hold long enough, we won't be alone." Milo looked around at the faces in the room, dirty, tired, but defiant. "This is it," he said. "The last stand." They named the location Bridgepoint Red. Once a freeway, now it was a graveyard of rusted cars, bus husks, and piled concrete slabs. In the dead hours before dawn, the resistance transformed it into a fortress. Snipers on rooftops. Fire traps in the wreckage. Hidden trenches with oil slicks and ignition wires. EMP charges at every choke point. The air vibrated with tension. Then, silence broke. A hum. A flicker in the sky. And they came. Drones in a perfect grid. Brutes enhanced with even newer mods, plated forearms, targeting eyes. And behind them, in a black exosuit that pulsed like a heartbeat. Voss. He hovered above the field, looking down at the survivors like a god inspecting ants. "This is mercy," he called through an amplifier. "Lay down your weapons. Join the new age." A single bullet cracked through the air. Rika had fired it, right into his helmet. It ricocheted off, but the message was clear. "No gods here," she said. The fight began. The battle for Bridgepoint Red was unlike any before. Chain soldiers pushed forward in formation, but this time, they encountered resistance trained by war. Traps lit the sky with fire. Drones were caught in nets and ripped apart. Brutes were lured into false passages and taken down by Ward and his blade. Jonah worked the comms, calling in support from allied groups converging on the city. "New York Cell says they're a day out. Pacific Command heard our signal, they're trying to relink satellites." But time was against them. One by one, barricades fell. Jonah's radio station was hit. Rika's squad was overrun and forced to retreat. Ellis was wounded, defending a child who'd been left behind in the chaos. And then, Voss descended. He landed at the center of the bridge with the sound of cracking concrete. "Enough," he said. Milo met him in the wreckage. Face to face. No armor. No squad. Just two men and the ruins of the world between them. "You think you're evolution," Milo said, "but you're just the last mistake." Voss sneered. "You're clinging to chaos. I bring peace. A world without hunger. Without fear. Without freedom," Milo replied. "You'll never win that way." And then, Milo did the unthinkable. He dropped his weapon. A silence fell. Even the machines hesitated. "I'm not fighting you," Milo said. "We are." From the shadows, survivors emerged, not just Meridian's resistance, but others. Dozens. Then hundreds. Survivors from burned towns. Fighters from collapsed bunkers. Nomads from forgotten highways. All of them had heard the call. Milo raised his voice. "This is dead America. You thought it was gone. You thought we were broken. But we're still here. Still human. Still free." Voss raised his arm, activating his drones, only for a blast of blue light to shoot from the horizon. Jonah screamed into the radio, satellite connection achieved. Scrambling his command signals. The drones began dropping, their systems hijacked. Chain soldiers froze. Ward and Rika charged Voss, flanking him. He fought like a machine, fists like steel, but he bled. And for the first time, he looked afraid. Milo tackled him, driving him into the ground. "You'll never enslave this world again." He plunged a stolen EMP node into Voss's chest plate. Sparks flew. The sky turned white. And then, silence. When Milo awoke, the sun had risen. Smoke hung in the air. The bridge was rubble. But the resistance was alive. Voss's body was gone, vaporized or buried. Either way, the chain's signal was silent. Survivors walked the ruins. Helping. Healing. Rebuilding. A new world born from ash. Rika knelt beside Milo. "We won." "Not yet," he whispered. "But we've started." She smiled. Weeks later, a signal broadcast from Meridian. "To all survivors. The chain has fallen. The cities are rising again. The world is scarred, but not lost. Heroes stood when it mattered most." If you hear this, come home. Dead America had been silent for too long. Now it roared with life and hope. Let me know if you'd like a sequel, a character spin-off, or visuals for this series.